When you hear someone use the phrase playing in key, that means they are using the same scale that the chords are derived from. So if you encounter a song that uses the chords E5, G5, and A5, you can make a pretty good judgment that the chords are in the key of E minor pentatonic, and therefore you can solo over those chords using the E minor pentatonic scale. Another example would be the chords E5, A5, and B5. The name of each chord is a note in the E minor pentatonic scale, so that's a good indication to you that you can play lead fills or write a guitar solo over those chords using the E minor pentatonic scale. Another popular and very similar scale is the major pentatonic scale. Let's get familiar with this scale by learning it inside and out. Start with the 6th-string open E to F sharp on the 2nd fret with the index finger, to G sharp on the 4th fret with the ring. Next, pivot your index to the 5th string 2nd fret for the B note, then C sharp with the ring finger on the 4th fret, and end by pivoting your index to the 4th string 2nd fret, octave E note. Altogether, we have E, F sharp, G sharp, E, C sharp, E. Then we'll play it in reverse. Octave E with the index, C sharp on the 5th string with the ring, to B with the index, to 6th string, G sharp, F sharp, E. So we'll play this forward with a pause on the octave, and then descending. Then we'll play the scale forward and back without pausing. Here it is with the tempo. For the octave position, we start with the index on the 4th string 2nd fret for E, then move it up to the 4th fret for F sharp, then play G sharp with the ring. By moving up like this, your index finger is in place to move to the 3rd string B note on the 4th fret, followed by the C sharp on the 6th fret with the ring, and end on the octave E on the 2nd string, 5th fret, with the middle finger. This positioning in itself allows for some unique lead lines. Here I'm picking the B and hammering my ring to sound the C sharp, then picking the E for the end, and repeating as desired. Okay, back to the exercise, where we will play the scale descending, E on the 2nd string 5th fret, to C, 3rd string 6, down to B on the 4th, to the 4th string G sharp on 6, F sharp on 4, then move down to E on the 2nd. Now on to the 3rd octave for our major pentatonic scale. We start on the 2nd string, 5th fret with the index, move up to 7, then play 9 with the ring, pivot your index to the 1st string 7, 9 with the middle, and stretch up to the octave E with the pinky on the 12th fret. If this is too much of a stretch for you, you could play 7 and 9 with the index, then up to the octave E with whatever is comfortable. However, the first fingering offers some very unique patterns that you could use for lead runs. So we'll play it ascending with the pause on the E, descending with a pause on E, and then ascending and descending without a pause. Now let's put all 3 positions together for a continuous exercise. Don't forget about your octave positions. For example, any scale can be played 12 frets higher on the neck, so be sure to practice each scale in its octave position. You'll notice throughout this video that I will be introducing scales with different exercises. For example, sometimes we'll play a scale ascending with a pause on the octave, and other times we'll play it continuous. Here's another example of how you can practice each scale. Let's combine 2 octaves and pause on the 2nd octave E, then descend. And naturally, we can apply this starting on the 2nd octave and ascend to the 3rd octave E. Pause and then descend. Now we're going to combine all three major pentatonic scale positions and continuously play them ascending and descending. We won't apply each exercise pattern to every scale we learn, so it's up to you to come up with your own exercise regime to practice each scale thoroughly so you know them inside and out. For now, here is our 3-octave scale run with a practice tempo. What if you have a chord progression using a chord name that is not derived from a note in your scale, but you think it might fit? For example, an E5 to an A5 chord progression. You can just try the scale. You might get lucky and it'll work. However, another way you can look at it is by comparing the other notes in the chord. For example, our scale consists of E, F sharp, G sharp, B, C sharp. There is not an A note in the E major pentatonic scale. However, when we look at the A5 power chord, we see that it uses the notes A on the 5th string open and E on the 4th string 2nd fret. Well, there is a note that is in common with the scale. So we can try it and see if the scale works. In this case, it does. You'll find when using power chords, rather than full chords such as majors and minors, that you can use several scales. However, the bigger the chord gets, the less options you have. The E5 to A5 chord progression gives us an interesting option by allowing us to use both the minor pentatonic and major pentatonic scales. Another chord that would be allowed in combining these scales would be the B5 chord. As in E5 to B5 chord progression. Since B5 is derived from both the E pentatonic major and minor scales, you can use either scale or even both to solo over an E5 to B5 chord progression. Another interchangeable chord progression in the key of E would be E5, A5, and B5. As we know, all three chords can be played behind the minor pentatonic or major pentatonic. Minor, major. Minor, major. And again, you could even swap back and forth between the major and minor scales for some interesting and contrasting lead work. Now we are going to learn the full major scale, which is a 7-note or diatonic scale. The major scale may sound very familiar as it is the foundation for popular music theory. It starts out with the first 3 notes from the E major pentatonic scale, the E, F sharp, G sharp. But we will play them differently. For the pentatonic or major pentatonic, we used our index and ring finger. For the major scale, we'll play the 6th string open to the 2nd fret F sharp with the middle finger, then the 4th fret with the G sharp with the pinky. Next we have the 5th string open A, which tells us why we were able to play the E major pentatonic scale over the E5 to A5 chord progression. Moving on after A, we have the 2nd fret B with the middle finger to the 4th fret C sharp with the pinky. Next is the 4th string 1st fret D sharp with the index and octave E on the 2nd fret with the middle. And this D sharp is the reason why we use the middle finger to play the 2nd fret notes. So the index is freed up for that D sharp that happens to be on the 1st fret. So we got 6th string open, 2, 4, 5th string open, 2, 4, and to the 4th string index on the 1st fret, then octave E. Altogether E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, and again the octave E. Starting with the octave 4th string 2nd fret, middle finger, to the 4th fret with the pinky. This puts our index finger in place to switch to the 3rd string 1st fret, 2nd with the middle, to the 4th with the pinky, pivoting the index finger up to the 2nd string 2nd fret, to the 4th fret with the ring, then the octave with the pinky on the 5th fret. E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, and octave E. For the next octave, move your middle finger to the 2nd string 5th fret, then 7th fret with the pinky. Next, move to the 1st string 4th fret with the index, 5th fret with the middle, 7th fret with the ring, move that up to the 9th fret, then 11, and then the octave on the 12th fret. E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, E. I'd like to interject that there are different ways you can play these scales. In other words, there are different positions. However, I'm purposely showing you random positions for one reason, to challenge you. Another reason is so you will eventually begin to grasp how the fretboard flows. So while some of this might be confusing at first, just go with the suggested patterns and practice them as they are taught. By the end, you will begin to see how they all come together, and hopefully I will have done my job of teaching you how to cover the entire fretboard. Now, on to the 5th string root note. Here we'll play the E on the 7th fret with our index, stretch up to the 9th fret with the middle, then the 11th with the pinky. On the 4th string, 7th fret with the index, 9th fret with the middle, 11 with the pinky. On the 3rd string, pivot the index up to the 8th fret, then end on the 9th fret, octave with the middle. Altogether, E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, E. For the 3rd string position, start on the octave E with your index, 9th fret, up to the 11th with the middle, to the 13th with the pinky, On the second string, pivot up to the 10th fret with the index, 12th with the middle, and 14th with the pinky. To the first string, 11 with the index, and end on the 12th fret octave with the middle. We have E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, and octave E. Now that we have learned the full major scale, let's look at scale degrees. We know that our notes are E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, and octave E. In the future, we'll often refer to these notes in scale degrees or numerically. E will be 1, F sharp will be 2, G sharp will be 3 or major third, A will be 4, B is 5, C sharp is the 6th, D sharp is the major 7th, and our octave, E, is back to 1 again. As a side note, keep in mind that the octave will sometimes be referred to as 8, but that's more for advanced theory. For now, we'll just start over at the octave with number 1. Now that we've learned the scale degrees to the major scale, let's compare it with the major pentatonic. Both scales share the notes E, F sharp, and G sharp, or the scale degrees 1, 2, and major third. However, the major scale uses the A note, or 4th scale degree, but the major pentatonic does not include this note. Moving on, both scales include the B and C sharp, or the 5th and 6th scale degree. However, the major scale includes the D sharp, which is the major 7th, and the major pentatonic does not. Basically, the major pentatonic excludes the use of the 4th and major 7th scale degree. Both scales are very interchangeable. Whenever you are able to use a major scale, you'll find that you are also able to use the major pentatonic. As you experiment, you may find certain instances where one works better than the other. This will come with time and exploration, but for a good foundation, you now know that the two are interchangeable. As with our previous scale, we can play power chords in place of each scale note. So we have the E5, F sharp 5, G sharp 5, A5, B5, C sharp 5, and the new chord is going to be the D sharp 5, which starts out on the 4th string 1st fret with the index, 3rd string 3rd fret with the ring, and the octave is on the 2nd string 4th fret with the pinky. Whenever you have 4th string power chords, or power chords where the root is on the 4th string, you'll be able to use this fingering, so it's a movable chord. So when we move up to the octave E on the 4th string 2nd fret, with our index, we also play the 3rd string 4th fret with the ring and the 2nd string 5th fret, octave E with the pinky, and we now have an alternative E5 power chord. We have the low one, and now we have the octave one here. together we have E5, F sharp 5, G sharp 5, A5, B5, C sharp 5, D sharp 5, and E5. All of these power chords use notes from the E major scale, with the exception of the D sharp 5, which combines D sharp with A sharp. Keep this in the back of your mind. Theoretically, this chord should not fit with the E major scale. However, there are some exceptions where it does, and some where it doesn't. So this is one of those gray areas where you have to rely on experimentation rather than following a rule book. When you harmonize each scale degree, you come up with full chords, or triads. Since this isn't a DVD on the subject of chords or music theory, I'm going to keep this section very simple. So far we've been playing power chords. Technically, or according to the standards of music theory, power chords are not chords, but fifth harmonies. For example, the E power chord, or E5, only uses the root and fifth scale degree. The octave is the same as the root, so if you're playing the 3-string version, even though there's 3 strings, you're still only playing the root and the fifth. The true chord is made up of 3 or more different notes. A triad, the smallest chord, is made up of 3 notes: the scale degree or root, its third interval, and fifth interval. So in the key of E major, the E chord is made of the first note, E, the third is G sharp, and the fifth is B. When we arrange these notes on different strings, we have an open E chord. First string open E, second string open B, third string first fret G sharp, playing that with the index, fourth string second fret with the ring finger for the E note, the fifth string second fret with the middle finger for B, and the sixth string open for our low E. When a chord uses a major third interval, like E to G sharp, it is a major chord. So this open E is an E major chord. The next chord is going to be an F sharp minor. Here we bar the index finger across the second fret, pressing down on all 6 strings, then add the pinky to the 4th string 4th fret, and the ring to the 5th string 4th fret. And when we strum all 6 strings, we have the F sharp minor chord. If you were to take this fingering and add the middle finger to the 3rd string 3rd fret, this would become an F sharp major chord. However, that would change the 3rd string A note to an A sharp, which is not in the E major scale. So to stay in key with our scale, we need to play the F sharp minor chord. Now if you move that same structure up, so your index finger is barring the 4th fret, you will have the chord for the G sharp note, which is our 3rd scale degree, which makes a G sharp minor. And just like the last chord, if you add the middle finger to the 3rd string 5th fret, this would change the chord to a G sharp major. But by adding that note, which is a C note, you are straying from the scale. So this is why the third scale degree needs to be harmonized as a G sharp minor. Okay, so far we have the open E major, the barred F sharp minor across a second fret, and G sharp minor barred on the fourth fret. The next scale note after E, F sharp, G sharp is A. So for our fourth scale degree, the chord we will be playing is an A major chord. The easiest way to play this is to bar the second fret across strings 2, 3, and 4 and add the fifth string open. You don't want to pick the first or sixth strings because you'll be added different notes that may stray from the scale notes. The notes we are playing, by the way, are the fifth string A, fourth string E, third string A, and the second string C sharp, which we know are all included in the E major scale. Moving up to B, our fifth scale degree, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we have a B major chord. Play the fifth string, second fret with the index, and bar the fourth fret with the ring finger across strings 4, 3, and 2. This chord is made up of B, F sharp, another B on the third string, and D sharp on the second string, all from our E major scale. Again, for now you don't want to add the first and sixth string notes unless you know for a fact you are adding scale notes. Otherwise, you might stray from playing in key. We've harmonized E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B. Next is C sharp, our sixth scale degree, which will be a C sharp minor chord. Here you want to play the fifth string, fourth fret with the index, fourth string, sixth fret with the ring, third string, sixth fret with the pinky, and second string, fifth fret with the middle. And you have a C sharp minor chord. If you like, you can even bar the index finger to include the first string, fourth fret. Just lay it across there. And next we have the seventh scale degree, which is D sharp, which creates a different chord altogether. When you apply the 1-3-5 triad formula to the seventh scale degree, you get a diminished chord. Here we are playing the fifth string, sixth fret with the index, fourth string, seventh fret with the middle, third string, eighth fret with the pinky, and placing the ring finger on the second string, seventh fret. Strum strings 5 through 2, and you have a very suspenseful sounding D sharp diminished chord. We could make this chord a major or a minor chord, but then we would be straying from the E major scale. So to stay within the scale, the seventh scale note, or as we call it, the seventh interval or scale degree, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or major 7. Actually, you got the first, second, major third, fourth, fifth, major sixth, major seventh. That major seventh scale degree, we could play it on the fifth string as well. That needs to be a diminished chord, theoretically, to stay within key. Which, this leads us up to our octave chord, or E major. Fifth string, seventh fret, and bar the ninth fret on strings 4, 3, and 2. Now you might be saying, I thought this was a lead guitar video. Well, it is, and you may have some other person in your band playing rhythm, and you may feel you don't need to learn these chords. However, if you don't learn to play them, you still should understand how they are derived and how scales and chords walk hand in hand in music. Here's a practice tempo running through our chords. Now that we're using the full major scale and building chords using only scale notes, that is truly what playing in key means. So if you come across a song or chord progression with the chords E, F sharp minor, and G sharp minor, we know those chords are derived from the key of E using the first, second, and third scale degree, and we can definitely use the major scale and major pentatonic scale over those chords. Sometimes rhythm guitarists will call this a 1-2-3 chord progression. Let's say you have a song using the chords E, C sharp minor, A, and B. If you dissect the notes used in each chord, you will see they use only scale notes derived from the E major scale, and therefore, using scale degrees, this is called a 1-6-4-5 chord progression. You can definitely use the major scale over this, but be careful. With some experimentation, you'll find that the more chords that are involved in a progression, the more selective you have to be with your phrasing. Not always, but at times. If you find that a certain note sounds off, you may want to move up or down to the next scale note to better blend in with the chord change. Also, you may find that if you follow the chord that is being played with its root note or other chord notes, you'll be safer than if you were randomly playing scale notes. The same would apply to the E major pentatonic scale. Next, let's look at one of the most common progressions, the 1-4-5 progression. In the key of E major, the first scale note is E, the fourth scale note or scale degree is A, and the fifth is B. So a 1-4-5 chord progression would consist of the chords E, A, and B. When you see these chords in any order, you can always bet on using the E major scale. Naturally, you can always use the E major pentatonic scale. Sometimes, for some reason, you can even use the E minor pentatonic scale. This seems to contradict what we've learned, but in popular music, there are always times when you can break the rules. So in this case, we have all major chords, E, A, and B, which is a 1-4-5 chord progression, which in theory uses only notes in harmony with the E major scale, or the E major pentatonic. Yet, when we mix it up with the minor pentatonic, we have a very bluesy or rock sound that definitely works in popular music. So, when will this work and when won't it work? If your chord progression or the background music that you were playing over stays on this 1-4-5 or E, A, B major chord progression, then you're pretty much safe. You might run into trouble if someone is singing at the same time using another scale, like the major or major pentatonic, then crossing over into the minor pentatonic might sound harsh to the ear. Or you might find a section of the song that changes things up and uses another chord from the key of E major, such as the F sharp minor, G sharp minor, C sharp minor, or even the D sharp diminished. If this happens, the E minor pentatonic scale will most certainly give off a mild or very unwanted contrast to the music. A solution here would be to go back to the root note, which is E, and hang on that for a while, or go to an octave E. If you know the chords are coming in advance, you can switch from the scale to the chords in time with the music. Or you could even play the root notes of the chords, which in that example I switched from a 1-4-5, E, A, and B, and on the second run I switched to the C sharp minor chord. So if you're coming out of a lead and you just want to enhance that chord, you might just switch from a E minor pentatonic up to the root note of the C sharp minor chord. Just throwing out some ideas that you might use when a change-up comes in a chord progression. The diatonic E minor scale, or 7-note minor scale, starts on the 6th string open E, to the 2nd fret F sharp fret with the index, to the 3rd fret G note with the middle. The 5th string uses the same frets and fingerings for open A, 2nd fret B, and 3rd fret C. Then the 4th string open D to octave E on the 2nd fret. E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, giving the minor scale a very unique musical quality. Next is our octave position, starting with the index finger on the 4th string 2nd fret, to the 4th fret with the ring, 5th fret with the pinky, to the 3rd string 2nd, 4th, 5th frets, that's index, ring, pinky, pivot to the 3rd fret, 2nd string 3rd fret with the index, and end on the 5th string octave with the ring finger. Altogether we're playing E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, and octave E. For the 2nd string position, start on the 5th fret with the index, 7th fret with the ring, 8th fret with the pinky. The 1st string is 5th fret, 7th, 8th, then up to the 10th, and end on the 12th fret octave. You can always change the fingerings to what is most comfortable for you, but in most cases, you might agree that the fingerings I've provided are the most useful. Regardless, the notes are the same. E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E. The 5th string scale position starts on the 7th fret, to 9, 10, to 4th string 7th, 9th, 10th. Again, the best fingering is index, middle, pinky for both strings. And on the 3rd string, we have 7 to octave E on 9. E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E. Up to the 3rd string position, we start on the 9th fret, to 11, 12, pivot up 1 fret to start on the 2nd string 10, 12, 13, to 1st string 10, 12. E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, and E. Naturally, each note in the E minor scale can be a power chord. So if you see a song using E5, F sharp 5, G5, A5, B5, C5, and D5, you can guess that the minor scale can be used, and even the minor pentatonic scale. However, F sharp 5 may give you some unwanted contrast. Not always, but it will depend on what the rest of the song is doing, as in vocals or other melodic instruments. You may also want to avoid playing the minor 6 interval, that C note there. You might want to avoid playing that if a chord progression includes the F sharp 5, because it uses a C sharp, which will contrast with the C note in the minor scale. On the other hand, you can easily switch to the E minor pentatonic, which does not include the 6 interval, or the minor 6 interval, or scale degree, and that should fit. For example, if you have a section of the song that rests on the F sharp 5, you'll notice that the C or the 6 interval in the E minor scale will give a sharp contrast. So by switching from E minor to the E minor pentatonic, the other notes seem to work over that F sharp 5. That's because the minor pentatonic is a shortened version of the minor scale. The minor includes the F sharp and the C notes. However, the minor pentatonic excludes these notes. When possible, you can work a lot more with slow-moving chords. If you have the opportunity, you can create a rhythm that will just ride on, say, the E5 for as long of a duration as you want, and you can move all over the neck using the different E scales. If you are playing over fast-moving chords, this sometimes creates contrast. So to resolve the contrast, you can choose to move through the scale notes using notes that complement the chords that are being played, or you can move in the direction of the chords, or in the direction of the chord progressions. So if the chords are moving up, you may want to move up in pitch, or if they're moving down, you may want to have your lead move down in pitch, just to kind of accent what direction the chords are going. And these are just some ideas, some suggestions that I'm giving you. When you get to harmonizing the minor scale into triads, the E becomes an E minor. F sharp becomes F sharp diminished. The G is major. A is minor. B is minor. C is major. And D is major. Any combination of these chords will be your hint that the scale used is E minor or E minor pentatonic. The fingering I'm using for E minor is open on strings 1, 2, and 3, middle finger on the 4th string 2nd fret, index on the 5th string 2nd, and the 6th string is open. The F sharp diminished is an index barring the 2nd fret from strings 3 through 6, 5th string 3rd fret with the middle, and the 4th string 4th fret with the ring. For G, you could play the open G chord, but here I'm using the G major bar chord. So bar your index across the 3rd fret of all 6 strings, add your middle finger to the 3rd string 4th fret, pinky to the 4th string 5th fret, and ring to the 5th string 5th fret. A minor is 1st string open, 2nd string 1st fret with the index, 3rd string 2nd fret with the ring, and the 4th string 2nd fret with the middle. The 5th string is open. To play the B minor, bar your index across the 2nd fret on strings 1 through 5, and add the 2nd string 3rd fret with the middle, 3rd string 4th fret with the pinky, and 4th string 4th fret with the ring. For C, you can play an open C chord, but I'm using a standard 5th string bar chord. Index on the 5th string 3rd fret, and bar the 5th fret on strings 4, 3, and 2. You can move this up 2 frets for the D chord, or you can play an open D, which I choose to play 1st string 2nd with the index, 2nd string 3rd fret with the ring, and 3rd string 2nd fret with the middle, 4th string is open. Altogether, you have the E minor, F sharp diminished, G major, A minor, B minor, C major, the D major, and you can resolve on E minor. So let's say we have an E minor to an A minor chord progression. We know both are derived from the key of E minor. Plus, there is a very good rule to learn. Usually, the first chord in a chord progression will tell you what key it is in. So in this case, we play the E minor to A minor progression and test our E minor scale. And we see that it fits perfectly with both chords. Now let's look at a progression that doesn't start on the root of a key. For example, what if we have a B minor to A minor to E minor chord progression? Something like this. All three chords are derived from the E minor scale, but if you start on the E note, it might not sound exactly like you want it to over the B minor chord. So in cases like this, if we use the E minor scale but start on the B note and move with the progression, we'll find that the key is an E minor and that the scale will work, but you have to pay attention to what the notes you're playing over each scale might be. A rule of thumb, sometimes a scale will work perfectly if you know that all the chords are derived from that scale. And sometimes you do have to kind of move with the direction of the chords. So you might start out with the B And when you get to the A minor, you can play start off with any of the A minor chord tones. So we've got an A, that's a possible tone we could start on. The E note would definitely fit better than it would over B because E is part of the A minor chord. A minor is made up of A, C, and E. So you can start with just about any note that you want there, either the A note, the C note, or even the E note. And naturally, when you get to the E minor, the entire scale should fit over the E minor chord. Let's look at a 4-chord progression. Here we have an E minor to C, to D, and to G. There's only one minor chord versus 3 major chords. Will the E minor scale fit? Well, all 4 chords come from the E minor scale, so if we try to play the scale over it, you see that it fits perfectly.